record.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the special meeting held on August 23rd, 2021 at 4:01. I will declare the meeting open. It's a very short meeting with 2 items on the agenda today. So we will, it's a follow-up to our regular council meeting that we had earlier this month. And we will begin with l'adoption de l'ordre du jour avec Councillor Lowenstein.
Thank you. I move to adopt the agenda of the special council meeting of August 23rd, 2021.
Thank you. And a councillor to second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Gilpin. All in favor? Yeah, good. Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is under C, administration. It's the authorization to sign addendum to the agreement between the town of Baie-D'Urfé and the Baie-D'Urfé Community Buildings Club dated December 15th and 17th, 2016. And it will be Councillor Phelps.
Whereas the service agreement for the management and maintenance of public buildings between the town and the Baie-D'Urfé Community Buildings Club dated December 15th and 17th, 2016. Whereas there is a need to update some of the responsibilities of the parties, I move to authorize the Director General to sign for, and on behalf of the town, the addendum to the agreement between the town of Baie-D'Urfé and the Baie-D'Urfé Community Clubs building dated December 15th and 17th, 2016, with the following changes.
And I believe Councillor Ryan wanted to say, make an adjustment to the motion.
Yeah, in reading this document, the addendum, the proposed addendum to the agreement between the town and the Community Buildings Club, I just noticed that it refers in several places to daycare or daycare related activities taking place within the coop. Given that the proposal here is to put the preschool, the Whiteside Taylor preschool specifically to that area of the Red Barn, I think it would make more sense to change the wording from daycare and daycare related activities to preschool. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. So I think before I ask for somebody to second it, I believe some councillors wanted to speak to this item. So Councillor Phelps, we'll start with you.
Yeah, if you remember previously, I had voted against this because I felt there was a need for more activity to be looked at before we passed it. I am now satisfied that all those activities have happened, and I will be voting on this.
Thank you, Councillor Phelps. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Eckfett. The 2 resolutions on today's agenda are really 2 sides of the same coin, so my comments relate to both of them. I would like to acknowledge the work that has been done by the administration to address some of the issues that I raised during our last council meeting. There is now a clear diagram in the preschool lease showing which part of the Red Barn the preschool will occupy. And we have a proposed addendum to the town's contract with the CBC to resolve the conflict between the existing CBC contract and the proposed preschool lease. Having said that, I still feel that it is unwise to relocate the preschool to the Red Barn. As I stated at the last meeting, this move will be disruptive to the organizations that regularly meet in the Red Barn and will benefit only a small number of families. Additionally, I suspect there will be difficulties with parking. There is a very limited number of spaces in front of the Red Barn, which are reserved for the use of the various existing groups that meet in the barn. The preschool lease requires parents to park in the curling club parking lot while they drop off or pick up their kids, but I expect that this will be difficult or impossible to enforce, and it's easy to foresee that it may lead to conflict between the different groups. So I will be voting against both of these resolutions today.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. And Councillor Gilpin.
Thank you, Mayor Eckfett. Actually, very similar to Councillor Ryan's comments with a different outcome. I acknowledge the administration for the hard work to try to resolve some of these issues, and I understand some work has been done. And I thank everybody involved for coming to resolving those issues and to where we are today. I am supporting this, and I think that it's a great solution. The coop has only been used 15%, so I think this is optimizing the very limited communal space we have as a community. And so I'm very supportive of this, and thank everyone involved for having come up with this very creative solution that solves several issues that have been identified in the town.
Thank you, Councillor Gilpin. I don't have any other councillor, just to make sure no one else wanted to speak before we vote. No. So just very briefly on this point, and I'll speak to the next one as well. I want to say thank you to the CBC executive, along with President Tony Brown, for their openness to finding working solutions. It was a busy week last week, and I know they worked very hard to come up with an addendum to their service contract that they were comfortable with. So they put it together and brought it forward to council. So I would like to say at this point on this one, I know Tanya put it all together for us to have access in the GAM, but an appreciation to the CBC for working with us last week to find a solution. So that's all I had to say on this one. So we will go to a vote. All in favor?
Sorry.
Oh, we need somebody to second it. Thank you, Councillor Lowenstein.
And I will second it.
Thank you very much. So with that, now we can move to the vote. All in favor? Thank you. Unopposed? Thank you.
I'm just scratching. I'm not putting the handle.
So the motion is adopted by majority. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the authorization to sign the lease agreement between the town of Baie-D'Urfé and the Whiteside Taylor Preschool, and that will be Councillor Phelps as well.
I move to authorize the Director General to sign for and on behalf of the town the lease agreement with the Whiteside Taylor Preschool for a term of 5 years starting from September 1st, 2021 to August 31st, 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Phelps. Before I ask somebody to second, I don't believe any councillor had comments on this one to add. I had a few words I wanted to say, but I'll just, Councillor Lowenstein, you would like to say a few words? Yeah.
No, just to reiterate what I said last week, that I find the option of having a preschool in our town is very important. It's a different type of childcare or child education to a daycare. Coming up with the creative solution of using the space in the coop, I had initially had some misgivings about displacing some of the groups there, but given that it is really only a small number and good alternatives have been found for them that are satisfactory to them, I am still in agreement with this proposal.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lowenstein. Anyone else? No. So I'll keep it brief, but I shared many of my thoughts last week publicly, but just to recap, there were many parts to this solution and many pieces that needed to be worked through. So it did take some time since this was brought to us back in November, when we were also in the change of Mayor Totino resigning and reworking council moving forward. At that time, all of council, I have to say, shared a similar sentiment. We don't always agree on everything, and that's what democracy is, and healthy discussions. But for most, I think, for all of council, I think we all felt that while we have a really nice CPE, that there was a market, a certain demographic, being the babies, that was a missing link that families had raised to us several times and had come up when we were in discussion with actually building a second CPE to accommodate 80 more youth or children. At that time, council we really had 3 questions that we had to consider. The first was no change, i.e. we keep status quo. CPE is not perfect, preschool is not perfect. but they were working in harmony, and you kind of accept that we can't service that segment of the population being the babies. So that was the first option. The second option that was put on the table was to terminate the lease of the preschool, therefore ending a contract with the town that services about 15 to 25 children. And the third option that was to see if there were creative solutions that we could expand the CPE by the 15 places and relocate the preschool. So while all of council, we know that certainly servicing infants would add value to the quality of life of our families. Council was not in, we were a majority of council unanimous to find solutions when presented and find a happy way if it made sense to make to bring added value to our community, not take away. But it was not a unanimous decision, and I fully respect that. For myself, I went into it keeping an open mind. I didn't know whether the solution would work, but I wanted to see how our current facilities were used. And as I mentioned, for me to trade 15 spots for 15 spots, if it's not needed, would have been a shame. It's not really for me to decide for the families whether preschool or daycare is what meets their lifestyle. It's really about what their decisions are as parents. Again, I presented the usage rates, so administration worked hand in hand to see how our space at the Red Barn was used pre-COVID. And it was very clear that our usage rates were not maximized. And again, the numbers I gave at the last meeting were in the large hall, approximately our usage rate over the entire week is just under 40%, whereas the coop was used about 17%. In addition to that, I have found that our capacity of this location, although I wouldn't suggest putting 515 people into the location, that is the legal maximum of this building usage. So while we only have 10 parking spots, and I appreciate that we don't have this building only to service 10 people at a time. So I think that the shared parking spaces between all users of the Red Barn, we have ample parking at our curling club, pool, and tennis club. That being said, I also know that we are quite busy in the evenings with children dropping off their kids for guides and scouts, and we've always found ways to manage the parking flow at those peak periods, and I have not heard any complaints. So in my mind, the only way would be not to have a parking issue would be by not using the building, and to me, that doesn't make sense. I would like to mention, it may not have been mentioned at the public meeting, but the preschool has shown a real openness to working with the town. It was brought up by a counselor way at the beginning of this conversation that there are special times during the year that the coop has been used by other groups, one-of events, and it was considered, it was discussed. The preschool had no issue, and it is and was part of their contract in this negotiation. So those one-of events that happen throughout the year can continue to happen at the coop on a pre-arranged basis. So before we go to a vote, I really hope that the preschool is happy in their new space, and I hope that they are welcomed by the other users and share the space in harmony. And while there could be hiccups, the town is there to support all groups using the Red Barn space. So I want to say thank you to Nicholas Bouchard. I know you were measuring up and doing all the specs following our last public meeting together with Antonella. Tanya, I know that last week was also busy for you with these changes, but it's all building a better file. So thank you for prioritizing your weeks to make this special meeting happen. So that was it from me. So it would be for somebody who would like to second this motion, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Gilpin. All in favor? 4, thank you. Opposed? 2 opposed. Thank you very much. So that was a short meeting, and if I could ask somebody that would end it. This we don't have to wait for questions to come into the public because it is not broadcasted live through our web TV.
Mayor Ekvik, if I may, we haven't
Yes.
received any questions regarding the agenda for the special council sitting. Thank you.
So we received no questions prior to us coming into this meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. So if somebody would like to close the meeting, please.
I move to close the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Gilpin.
I second.
Councillor Phelps to second. Thank you. So this meeting is declared closed at 4:16 p.m.